I've learned everything in my life the hard way. It doesn't matter what it is. It's always the hard way. And so I know that I'm going to be better because of it. But in the beginning, it's tough to swallow some of those pills.
In today's episode, we sit down with Kyle Campbell, and I am absolutely amazed with this conversation. It's been one of my favorites since we've been on the buzz. We're going to be talking about what Kyle learned as a first-year agent and how he overcome those struggles and how he's overcoming struggles in year 3 and making sure that he's always consistently getting 1% better, pouring into the team, leading by example, and he's going to break down exactly what he does to make sure that his agency is on the right track and winning and consistently performing day in and day out. With that being said, let's start the show. Hey, welcome to the Insurance Buzz. We are your hosts, Michael and Courtney Weaver, and we are super excited about our guest today, Kyle Campbell. What's going on, my man?
Not much. How you guys doing?
We are so ready for this conversation. You are a year 3 agent, so we are going to get into the juice.
Yeah, but first and foremost, you just found out that you qualified for Toppers again, which is top 10% in the company. You've done it every single year that you've been an agent, so congratulations, my man. That's a big deal.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. It's I credit to my staff. They're the reason why I'm here, but it's really nice to see that our hard work is paying off year over year. So
absolutely. So I would like to actually go back to year 1. I know I get asked this question a lot, so I want to go ahead and pose the question to you, but maybe what was one of your biggest learning lessons in year 1 that you either learned from or you wish you would have done something differently that a new agent, brand new right now, starting the agency, this would help them?
yeah, I would say my biggest opportunity was I didn't sell as much as I should have. I focused more on trying to get processes and structures in place, and then I can't stress enough being quick to hire, but quick to fire. If you're not going to, you're kind of juggling both sides there. If you have to sell a bunch, but then you also have to grow your agency, you're going to need to pick up more staff members. But being quick to fire those that are not going to buy into what you're selling or your culture, your agency, or maybe they're just an underperformer because they're not motivated. But the 2 things that I would have done differently was, vet my staff a little better for sure. And then focus a lot more on the sales aspect of it. Side note, I did have my wife and I did have our first and only child that like 4th month of being open. So that did distract me for a little bit, but in hindsight, I wouldn't have done anything differently with that. It was a time for our family, but overall, looking at your business from the structure standpoint. So like, do I have the right people in place? Okay. And do these people allow me to sell? Okay. So you kind of have to have the right people helping you out and maybe you could sell afterwards.
All right, let's break these down, brother. So quick to hire, quick to fire. I want to try to break that one down. So what are you doing now differently than you did back then? Because this is like when you say quick to hire, quick to fire, like what process does that look like now?
Yeah, well, in insurance, you got to build a pipeline, right? You got to build a funnel, so it takes a little bit of time. You're gonna have from the getting them licensed to getting them to selling their first policy. There is a gap where you're gonna have to have them kind of just growing a little bit, and it's gonna be growing pains. But there are things you can look at in that time frame of like, all right, are they showing up to work on time? Are they doing the expected call banks between the hours that you want them doing their calls? Are they getting all their quotes done? Are they getting all their email tasks and text tasks and stuff done? And you can see right then and there, if they're struggling with organization and they're struggling with doing these basic things in the job, they're going to struggle long term. So I usually give them, anywhere between 1 to 2 months to kind of build that pipeline and then look at behaviors. And if by month 3, there's not a production requirement being hit, it's I'm sorry, this isn't working, or we got to really dig into your coaching because you're in your last month. I'm very transparent with my staff. I let them know, like, hey, this is not working because of this reason. We need to fix it. A lot of times it's organization. I give you the tools to do a lot of the automated stuff in the background for you. So if they're not doing the basics, I gotta have that conversation. So making your phone calls, making your follow-ups, doing your quotes. I quote every single customer on auto and home. And if we don't have one of those 2 quotes in there and that customer calls in, the other agent who takes that inbound call gets to close that business. It's theirs. It's not yours because we didn't do the bare minimum of what I asked you to do, which was 2 quotes. And then in the beginning, kind of the prospecting, I have a very good recruiting program. So I do get a lot of applicants, but I don't hire anybody without a license. The requirement in the first interview is like, hey, I need you to get a license. Once we get that license, then we can talk about onboarding and a process from there.
I love that, man. I know every state's a little bit different, but I'm a huge proponent that you always want to make sure your team, it's like a tentative offer. You can have a job here, love to talk to you, but you got to get licensed first. So I love that you do that. I want to dive in though, just real fast to that 90-day implementation that you give them. So is that like a conversation that you have when you hire them? Hey, this is a 90-day temporary period where you have the ability to prove yourself and make sure you like this and it's for you. And this is also a 90-day temporary for us to make sure you're a right fit for the agency. So you're trying to take, it sounds like you're trying to take emotion out of the decision, which is something I always struggled with hires, because I'd pour so much into them and I would see the potential that they have. Like, oh man, they have it. And then they just never have it. And I'd be like, shit. And I would hold on to them like 3, 6, 9 months too long. So it sounds like you're doing a really good job by year 3 of just, hey, this is the structure, this is the process, 90-day temporary period. Am I catching this correctly?
Yeah. I would see your point. I was you in year 1, year 2. I held one of my very first hires that I held on to for way too long. He was an underperformer. He didn't do everything that I was asking him to do. I caught him on his phone several times, and it's just like, and then I was out of my office for a while with my child, and I came back, and it was just like the whole place was on fire. So it's like, something's not going on here, but I held on to him for way longer than I should have. I've said this before to everybody I know. I've learned everything in my life the hard way. It doesn't matter what it is. It's always the hard way. And so I know that I'm going to be better because of it. But in the beginning, it's tough to swallow some of those pills, because you're like, well, how much money could I have saved? Where would I be at? Like, it's just things like that. So, but yeah, now in year 3, I'm looking at the return on investment, right? I got to look at, like, if I bring these people in, what are they going to tangibly be able to do by month 2, by month 3? Okay, if they're not up to what I would expect as my standard by month 3, it's like we got to go a different direction.
Yep.
And that's what I mean by quick to fire. I know a lot of agents, myself included, who will hang on to people for way longer than they need to, because, to your point, they see that potential. And you can see potential in people, but it's just, are the actions validating that? That's the hardest part sometimes.
And sometimes it's not potential. Sometimes it's just a warm body. Like, you're desperate at this point and they're doing something. So I'm curious. I love that you said learning everything the hard way. That's the whole reason why we have this podcast, is to give you the easy way. These are all lessons that we all had to learn the hard way. So I'm curious on expectations. This is a sticking point for agents a lot, on what is like your bare minimum. You talk about your standards a lot. I would love to know, if you were hiring a salesperson, what are their expectations?
Well, so in Michigan, we're a little bit of a lower premium state. So our premium is kind of tied to, like, premium and policy. So if they hit a certain policy count, they would qualify for, like, a certain threshold of commission, and I do a tiered commission structure. But kind of the daily expectations for them, when they're here in the morning, they're working on the internet leads that I purchased for them. They're expected to, especially when they first start, they're supposed to bring a list of 100 people that they know that they can practice quote on / potentially write. And so that's kind of like their first couple weeks as they're learning the systems and stuff, is doing their list of 100. From there, they'll end up working on internet leads, and I kind of start them real small and then kind of work them up to help build their pipeline. But then also, I'm not going to give you a bunch of leads that I'm paying for if you're not going to, vet and quote in the correct way. We got to make sure that everything is in the correct process. And then from there, it's your prospecting calls, and everything is measurable, right? So we have quotes that I can look at. We have calls volume that I can look at. We can look at what you're saying on the phone. I use a system that actually AI scores all of their calls for me, so I don't have to listen to every single call. And I'm using that as part of coaching conversations. So if I see opportunity, we sit down and we talk about it. And I do morning meetings every day in my office, Monday through Friday. Friday's kind of a fun one, but every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're talking about a subject that pertains to the business. So, what our results were from last week, some kind of training education piece on P&C or life and health. And then I've got Weaver Wednesdays, as we call them, where we talk about some different Weaver sales tactics. And then Thursday is either the opposite. If we did life on Tuesday, we're doing P&C on Thursday, or vice versa. Like tomorrow, I'm doing a big pitch on life insurance and about how, one of my best life producers is leaving my agency to open his own. I need somebody to kind of help me get that momentum back, because we're going to lose it a little bit. So, and that's what tomorrow's focus is going to be, kind of going over each individual policy that we can offer and how we market and sell to those things. And then Fridays are our fun day, where we play a game of some variety, and each team gets to accumulate a point, and then if they reach so many points, I reward them in something cool that they wanted to do. So
Okay, so let's get into actual tactical numbers here.
Mhm.
When you talk about policy and premium, as a
Mhm.
salesperson, what are your salespeople responsible for each month?
Yeah. So like I said, I have a tiered structure. They have to sell at least 15,000 in premium to get a commission check. Anything under that it hurts my agency. It's there are costs and it doesn't make anybody any money. But there's also a policy count in there too. I believe it's 15 policies, which the 15 and 15s get you paid essentially. And then I just recently for 2025 changed my structure over, where basically I give them the opportunity to make more money. So any life insurance policy, let me start over. 15,000, 0 to 15,000 is 0 to 14,999 is 0% commission, and then 15,000 to 24,999 is 2% of the premium they write. If they write a life policy, they get 3%. And so they get an additional percentage for having that actual life insurance written in there. And then it goes from 24,999, so 25,000 to 34, 35,000 to 44, and then 45,000 and above. It's 2, 4, 6, 8 tier commission structure, and then 3, 5, 7, 9 if they write a life. So
Yeah.
I've always been a big proponent of. I pay a pretty good base, and then after 90 days, kind of coinciding with their whether I'm going to keep them or not. That's when they get a health insurance stipend. So they're able to get money towards health insurance because I don't offer benefits, but then they can take that money, go to the market and buy it. It's basically a salary increase at that point, but it's in lieu, so they get paid that way.
I love that, man. I love tiered based comp structures because I believe that number one, it's going to eliminate those that really shouldn't be in that role. But number two, we are big believers that you incentivize what you want. And so I love that. I love that we used to run a very similar comp plan, and I'm a huge fan of the tiered based structures. So tell me a little bit about maybe what
I have a question before we move on, because we talked about this before we hit record, and then you alluded to it a little bit. So I want to go there about life insurance, because tomorrow you're having that conversation. And what we were sharing before we hit record was how one of your producers is your primary life insurance producer, and that person is getting ready to get their own agency, and how that mindset shift and the coaching has shifted to get everyone bought in on life insurance. I'm curious on what that conversation looks like, because I know that there are a lot of people listening right now that have this person is the rock star, and they're hanging on to that of okay, what would happen? There's that fear of what would happen if this person left, if they got their own agency. So I would love kind of your process and what you're going to be talking to your team about to get them bought into selling life insurance.
Yeah. For me, the biggest thing was I was looking at okay, there goes a big portion of my agency is leaving right now, right? He was the one that was the expert in life outside of the agency owner, obviously. He has a lot of experience selling it, but the thing that really triggered for me was who in my staff is going to take that next step? Who's going to be the one that jumps into that role? And there's nobody raising their hand or chomping at the bit at that, because life insurance is such a fun conversation for everybody to have. And I love talking about life insurance. So for me, it's an education conversation. So I'm always looking at what can we do to get you to understand, number one, what we offer, but then two, how do we apply it, right? What's that conversation look like? And so it'll be training sessions. It'll be a lot of going over this is what Farmers offers, and this is what we have, and how do we apply this. But then it's also going to be doing one-on-one role plays with each individual of all right, I'm a client now. You call me on the phone. Let's sell it. Let's talk about it. How do you prospect for it? And I'm okay if they don't win the business in that phone call, because life insurance is one where people are a little bit uncomfortable in the very beginning. But if my staff are not doing the prospecting of following up each week on that, then they're leaving money on the table. And that's my biggest proponent of them, because I do pay better on life insurance than I do anything else. I really don't want to go into my specifics on my commission structure there, but essentially if they write a life policy, they get a percentage of the premium or a base pay, whichever's higher. So they're gonna essentially be making more per policy just by helping them out. So, and then to your point, it's almost boiling it down to making it very easy to just even bring up in a conversation, because so many people are uncomfortable talking about it. How do I break that barrier? How do I break that uncomfortability? And honestly, the way that I learned, because I like I said, I have a retail background. I come from retail as selling. I've never sold a product like insurance before this. But for me, it was solely just doing it. I had to literally have multiple conversations with people to talk to them about life insurance, have that uncomfortable feeling. And then I learned, like I said, the hard way, like I wouldn't say that again. I'd say something different. So I'm trying to prevent them from having that uncomfortable feeling because I've had it enough myself, but sometimes they have to have it to learn. So.
Oh yeah, I think and that's the thing nobody wants to hear. They're
No.
like, what's the silver bullet? What's the easy button? And it's like, you don't get to bypass this. Like,
No.
it's just reps. It's just getting more comfortable with the conversation. I love that you bring that up. I want to circle back to, in the beginning, you said sell faster as the agent would be one of your tips that you would give. So when you're looking at life insurance, I'm curious, what expectations do you have on yourself as the agent to produce life insurance?
I mean, as the agent in the agency, if I'm not, so you have to hit my marker. I have to write 8 to 9 policies a month. That's issued and paid. So like they have actually paid and gone through. So, we need to be hitting upwards of like 12 to 15, I would say, a month in actual written. But if I'm not writing one a month, I can't send an example. And I try to do more than that. But my biggest focus right now is prospecting for commercial. I'm really trying to find, some different commercial aspects for farmers. It's one of my biggest opportunities as an agent in general. So I'm trying to familiarize myself with all the underwriting rules and everything. But if I can't find one life insurance policy a month, how can I ask any of my staff to do that? Like, I just can't, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's personal network, whether that's, commercial clients that I find, if it's prospects in my book that my staff aren't going to sell to, I'll do whatever I can to find my one policy a month. At least written. If I can't get it issued, then it could be a multitude of things. But for me, it's solely about the, so I have like I'll actually kind of show you guys. I have like this, breakdown of hour by hour where I'm doing different things. Each week I've got hours broken out of like, I'm prospecting for commercial here. I'm prospecting for life insurance here. I've got, I'm part of the local Rotary Club. So I got a Rotary meeting every week that I go to. Cole Collar gave us these ideas about doing marketing for mortgage lenders. So calling mortgage lenders, I got to call block for that. All these different things to try and generate business for my agency on top of improving my SEO. So a lot of different things that I'm doing, but I have carved out time each week to find that one policy I need to do. So
Heck yeah, dude.
Oh gosh, it sounds so boring, but there is nothing sexier than a time block. I mean, it really isn't, because for me, I have an undisciplined mind. It will go off in 1,000 different directions. So if I look at the calendar, I mean, if you were to look at Michael and I's calendar, it is like down to the minute of, we're going to eat at this time. This is what we're focused on. This is what we're prospecting to. So I love that, because if not, you in the day and you're like, what did I do today? Like, why am I even showing up? I'm just busy.
Yeah, it's definitely the important piece for me. Honestly, I learned a time block probably about a year ago, and it's just been a process. Like, it's never perfect, but I'm just like you. I have a 12:30 reminder. Hey, eat lunch. Like, don't forget to do that. Like, it's just, I break it down to the most simple things. So.
If eating's not on the calendar, it's not happening. All right, like
correct.
That's with everything though. Is if it's not, my belief is if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't get done. And I know that, like, obviously we met each other about 6 or 7 months ago when I came and spoke to you guys. And that's one thing that I speak on in every single workshop, and something I'm very passionate about, because that one little tweak, I've watched it make a huge difference in our lives. I've watched it make a huge difference in a lot of team members and agency owners' lives. And so just that one little thing, like if you can control your day, because in insurance, and you say this all the time, it's like playing whack-a-mole, man. Like if you aren't doing the things that are going to actually move the needle in your career, in your business, in your day, you get to the end of every day. And I was like this for so much of my career, where I felt, man, I was really busy today, but what did I actually accomplish? Like, what did I do? And so I'm just a huge proponent of that. I love that you've got that. It looks like it's right there on your desk to where you see it every single day, which we're huge proponents of. We always are encouraging people, put sticky notes on your computer.
Visual cues.
Where you're at, where you just see it every day as a reminder.
That's our first, from a habit standpoint, we're visual creatures. So most of our brain energy goes to looking at visual cues. So if you have it in front of you, you can actually see that. And to like the bigger point of, it takes out that first initial hurdle of creating. Like, what do I have to actually do today? When you have it all listed out in a time block, it removes that. So then all you have to tell yourself is, I just have to show up and do the thing. So you already have that huge hurdle out of the way. Then it's just executing. Now all you have to do is just show up and do what the calendar says. Do it to the best of your ability, and then keep doing it over and over again.
And I love the fact, and you're hinting at this, so I'm just going to ask. So you're still in personal production, right?
Yeah, I write some personal wise, but yes.
Okay. I love that. Well, personal financial
Commercial.
services, commercial, like you're still producing. And I love this topic because it goes back to what you brought up just earlier that you said, like the one thing that you wish you'd have done differently year one was sell more. And now you fast forward to year three, your top 10% of the agency force every single year in your company, your top 10 agent in your state every single year, like you're constantly growing. You have a team of 10, yet you're still in year three in production, leading by example, selling in your agency. And I think that is one huge disconnect that I see in the insurance industry is agents try to make the leap to whatever vision of CEO that they see too soon, and then they don't have the money to support the agency. So not only are you investing heavily back into the business right now, you're still in production. And I don't want to just skip by that because I think that's really, really, really important. I'm going to emphasize that because if you don't have a ton of money, if you're not backed by a ton of money, like we weren't, you have to produce enough to be able to pay the bills in your agency. Like the one thing I always hate when I hear agency owners say, well, I don't have enough money to do that. That's a freaking mindset shift, bro. Like you have a broke ass mindset. And if you're not in personal production generating revenue for your business, that's the first thing I would work on. Because if you can't sell, your team probably isn't selling either.
Right. Well, to your point, every policy you write, you're paying yourself on and no one else, right? So like, why wouldn't you sell? You know, I started looking at it from a more of a time cost management piece, right? So like for me, I do sell some, personalized production, but commercials where I want to live because the premiums are bigger. It does involve a little bit longer of work, but you write one of those policies and you're paying for your entire payroll staff sometimes. So it's for me, I'm looking at my time cost, what's the best time cost for me? But a second I have a situation where a personal policy needs my touch, my help, whatever, I'm there. I want to be a part of that. I want to take it off your hands if you're not comfortable, because we don't want to lose an opportunity solely because you're not comfortable. You got to learn. You got to learn, watch me do it and then be part of that conversation. But at the end of the day, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to make sure that it goes through. But yeah, 100%. Like, you're not paying anybody on that. Why wouldn't you sell? That's the biggest eye opener in the beginning for me. Like, come on, Kyle, you should have sold more.
I love that you're bringing that up. So I want to talk a little bit about TCPA because we've had that delayed a year. And I know that was a huge topic in January. And then when that delay came out, I'm curious on what you saw within your team of production from January to February. You said you kind of turned a corner a little bit. I'm curious what made that shift.
So in the beginning, I would say that, part of it was lead volume. We weren't getting as much lead volume as we originally had been. And that was to be expected with all of this. And so I was supplementing my team with other avenues. I printed off life lists. I printed off X dates that I had. We did a couple events that would hope to generate a little bit more leads locally, because I knew that I had to have something in place of this loss and managed production that we were going to have. And with any pipeline, it takes time to build up. So all my events, all my lists and all that kind of stuff, I was maybe a little bit late to the game, but I really wanted to see how TCPA was going to affect the landscape in December. January hits and I'm like, oh my God, this is bad. Like we have not as much production as we needed to have in. And the end of the month's coming and I'm just like, oh, what are we going to do? We increased our call volume and we tripled our call volume. It was like, hey guys, I need you making more dials. We have to call more than you. We got to call more X days. We got to call. And it didn't yield the results that I thought it was going to yield, and so then I took a step back. I really looked at my systems and processes and I'm like, well, maybe it's me. Maybe it's my stuff I'm offering people. And after digging in and looking at what our systems were and how our automation was set up and everything, it just boiled down to what my staff was saying on the phone. Like the people that they got on the phone, it just wasn't the right verbiage, or they weren't picking up on some of the cues. And so we had to have more one-on-one conversations with individuals. But granted, like I told you guys before, I hired 4 new people in like December, January. So I did have 4 new people talking to newer clients. So maybe I shouldn't have extended myself that far, but for the first time ever, I offered 4 jobs to people contingent on them getting licensed, and all 4 of them got their licenses in 2 weeks. So it's like, oh, kind of have to take them on that. So.
Here we go.
That's a good problem. That's a good problem.
In my experience, that's never happened. So like it was a good thing, but also an expensive thing. So when you have all that happening and then the sales aren't coming in because you have new people learning, it's really like we have to really dig in, hands on with everybody to figure it out. And this month's paying dividends. I mean, like we just closed our folio last week. And it was one of our top folios in probably the last 4 or 5 months. So that was really great. We wrote 82,000 in premium, and we wrote 95, but yeah, obviously cancellations and everything. Yep. We had a few that canceled. So what actually stuck was about 82, which is a pretty good month for us and compared to the last couple of months. And But I have high hopes for the rest of this year that we'll break 100K every month. That will get me to my annual goal for around 1.2 to 1.5 million in annual premium every year. So, overall, the things that Farmers is doing that they're rolling out, we're going to be in a really great spot. So it's just making sure I have the right people in the right place to capitalize at the right time. So.
Gosh. Okay, I'm going to reemphasize that. It was not call volume. It was not lead volume. It was actually what they were saying.
Conversion. Yeah.
It was what you were saying in the conversation that would convert. I'm saying that again because I think sometimes we want to bypass training because we're like, nope, it's definitely not that. It's just a numbers game. And it's like, it is a numbers game to an extent, but then it comes down to what is actually being said. Is the customer understanding what you're saying?
Shoot, I was going to do a podcast episode on this, but we're
going to have to fire it up.
Let's just bring it up right now. The one thing that I consistently see top agency owners do that those that struggle don't do is they make time to train. That is one of the most significant. Now, yes, you can talk about investing back into the business. You can talk about marketing, but they're constantly training every single day, whether it's 15 minutes a day or some take it to an hour a day, whatever you want to do. But that's why you're consistently a top agent, because you continue to pour back in your team. You invested with Weaver Sales Academy. We're like, that is just part of it. And it's not, and you're not leaving it as an option, because that's the other thing I see a lot of agents that struggle. They're like, well, they'll use it or they want. It's like, shit, no, this is up to you. No. This is your culture. This is your business. This is a non-negotiable if you want to be successful. So that is, I'm so glad that you're bringing it up. I'm glad that you brought it up, because what I see agency owners do that are excelling and continuing to have success is they're making it a non-negotiable in their office of getting 1% better every single day. They are prioritizing training because they understand that if my team is good, we're automatically going to grow. And so I love that you're doing that, Kyle. You're leading by example. You're investing into your business and you're holding your team accountable to getting better. And you're actually pouring back into them. I love that. Like, I absolutely dig it.
Yeah, I mean, inspect what you expect, right? Like, it's the biggest piece of, I think, management 101. You can't tell your staff to, if they don't have an expectation to do something and then you're not following up on it, like, what are you doing? You're literally just running around with your head cut off trying to run a business, which, I mean, this is my retirement. I don't know what these other agents are doing, if this is, they're going to sell it or whatever. This is my retirement. I'm either giving it to my daughter or I'm selling it when I'm in my 50s. Like, that's the plan. So, like, what are you doing with your time all day long? Like, I don't know about you guys. Like, I'm busy, but, like, my staff's my priority. They're the ones that I want to make better, because that just makes it so I can do the things that I need to do. So, yeah, I'm a big proponent of 1% better for sure. I got a magnet on my garage that when I walk out the house to go to get my car every day, I see it, touch it, and say, what are we going to do today to be 1% better? And it's just finding, it could be in anything. I usually try to pertain it to my business, but I'm a husband, I'm a father. I want to make sure that I'm 1% better in those relationships too. So that's what my focus is what can I do today to be 1% better? And then if I didn't find anything, tomorrow I got to be 2% better, because I'm not falling behind.
Okay, so the last question that I have, we're really focused on life insurance. We talked about that a little bit before we hit record. You have a big life insurance goal. So when you're looking at a big goal like that, 100 life policies in a year, I'm curious on what your plan is to get there.
You got to break it down month by month, and then you got to look at your kind of like, I don't want to call it lapse ratio or non-issue ratio, but you have to look at like what you have in terms of the quality of life that you're writing to. Because if you're just buying all non-standard internet leads and trying to sell a life policy to them, good luck, because it's going to cancel. It's not the way to write life insurance. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm not saying we don't write them, but you have to do what's best for the customer. But like these higher level conversations is all about prospecting and looking through what you already have. So I look through my book pretty much every month, and then I find, the individual, usually was my former, protege who's launching, would be looking to prospect these life insurance, customers. So people we've had in our book for a while, and they've been there for maybe a month. We're just following up on all of them to try to figure that out. And then I, break it down by month, how many policies we have to issue and pay, and then versus how many we have to actually write to get that issued and paid. And then if we fall behind, it's adding to those goals every month. I got to like June last year, and I'm like, well, we're not making it this year, so we got to try and get some better processes in place. And that's really what I spent the back half of 2024 doing, was educating myself on, okay, where did we fail? This is where we failed. What do we do differently? And then how do I get all of my staff on that buy-in?
And with new staff, it's hard. Like, it's hard to get them up and rolling. Like, obviously, you got to get that P&C conversation rocking and rolling. They need to master it. And then I'm a huge believer and introducing life insurance into at least the first 90 days, into those P&C sales conversations. Obviously, you know this, but with the mortgage payoff protector, every time you talk to a homeowner, you're bringing up a mortgage payoff protector. Anytime you bring up or talk to a renter, it's the debt payoff protector. Anytime you're talking to a 50 to 65-year-old, it's the burial plan. So just teaching them those little triggers, like, okay, every time you talk to a homeowner, we're going to bring up the mortgage. Anytime you talk to a renter, debt payoff. Anytime you talk to somebody older than 50, let's ask them about their burial plan. And I know that's the things that you're working on them with right now, but I just think that if you can get those consistent triggers, those consistent processes to where my number, as you know, Kyle, is always 3. Like if they can just consistently have 3 full-blown life insurance conversations a day, every single day, man, if you can get everybody on your team doing that, you're probably writing 200 this year.
Yep. And that's kind of where I've noticed the biggest opportunity is right now. Is I think I alluded to this before, how I have, like word trackers or call coaching and stuff that goes on. So they're looking for these specific words that need to be said. 'Cause I'm not going to listen to, 300 phone calls a day. I'm sorry, I don't have time for that. That's why you have this stuff. You have this stuff that does the tracking and coaching for you. And it's the easy coaching process. Then you go to them and say, look, we've been talking about this. You're supposed to be talking about mortgage protection. That person had a homeowner, and not one time did you bring up anything in that conversation. Like, not only are you leaving money on the table for yourself, but we didn't protect them with the best policy we offer. And that, to me, just like hits the core every time. So.
Kyle, man, this has been been fantastic, brother. If somebody wanted to just follow you, connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So I obviously I have my Facebook, my Instagram, all that kind of stuff. But my business Facebook page is my second version, because my first one got like all messed up or whatever from Facebook. And good luck getting a hold of anybody with them. But,
come on, Zuck.
Come on now.
come on, Zuckerberg. But I got a new one on there now. It's all good and it's up and running, and it's approved by Facebook.
There we go.
But yeah, follow me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram. But I do a lot of posting for stuff from my agency. We actually just went out for my protege's graduating. We went out to dinner on Friday as staff, and it was a really good time. So pretty fun agency that I run here. But obviously, it's all about the staff that you have. If you don't have good staff, who are you?
Yeah.
Every great business was built by
Great
people, so you can't do it by yourself. And don't sell yourself short, man. You're doing a fantastic job. You're leading from the front. You're pouring into your people, and that's what it takes to be successful. In year 3, you're crushing it, bro. I can't wait to watch you over the next 20, 30 years, man. So, Kyle, we appreciate you coming on today. For those of you who are tuning in to The Buzz right now, thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you as always. Time and attention are by far our most important assets, so we appreciate you spending time with us today, man. Go out and make it great. Kyle, thanks again, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on.